We talk a lot about the crisis and the crises that are created by the addict. And I wanted to take an even further step back and talk about crises in mental health. So when you see someone, particularly a young person who's perhaps an addict, perhaps suicidal, perhaps have some sort of mental illness, typically, in a clinical setting, there's a great hesitancy to diagnose someone under 18 and even in their 20s, because some of these things are just manifestations of what's going on in the family and they work themselves out. So if you're responsible, you just really, there's a real hesitancy to give labels. On the flip side, of course, there's a need to give labels so that insurance companies will be strong-armed into forced to provide care. There's a very delicate situation. So when there's a crisis and there's a young person involved, a teenager, a young adult, someone in their 20s, what typically clinically you look for is how people within the family are responding. What do they do? Are they communicating? Are they acting like a family? Are they communicating with one another? Is someone taking advantage of the mental health crisis to uh, exert control over the person who's in crisis? What's going on? And so, very frequently, when you've got a crisis in a mental health setting with a young person, what the crisis does is it shows who's truly mentally ill in the family. And very often it's one of the parents is suffering from major mental illness that's undiagnosed. And they're really what you would call the puppeteer, uh, pulling the strings on the whole situation. So that's the first thing to think about when you're dealing with mental health issues is, and it should be a cautionary tale for you, particularly if you're a parent, that how you act and react in the midst of a crisis, I mean, that's how we know who we are. When the going gets tough, when things are rough, when things are difficult, that's how you know who a person really, really is. Um, Anybody can act and maintain a facade day in and day out, but it's in difficult situations that you see exactly who the individual is, how childish they are, histrionic, how they take difficult situations and make it all about them, you know. So that's the perspective. That's kind of a mental health perspective. Now, when you're talking about addiction, the addict typically is creating problems on a regular basis, and their car, the car of life is pointed, it's directed off the cliff in a variety of ways. And it's it's coming. You can see it's coming. That's why the people around them are panicked. They're like, don't go there, don't go there, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And they're gunning it. The more you try to control them, typically the gas pedal will go down more. So that's the other reason why you need to get a hold of yourself, act like an adult, take a step back, and get a handle on what's really going on. And that has to be done from a place of calm and reason and thoughtfulness, not anxiety, hysteria, and all the things that I would call are participations in the vortex, getting sucked into the vortex. So you actually have to get out of that storm in order to conduct yourself in a sane and rational way. So here we go, April 24th. When something isn't working the way I think it should, I can think about the slogan, easy does it. Instead of redoubling my effort, I can slow down and reassess the situation. The answer I seek may be staring me in the face, but sometimes I have to let go of what I'm doing before I can see it. I was trying to zip a removable lining back into my coat, but it wasn't working. I pushed as hard as I could, trying to force it to slide, but it wouldn't budge. Finally, I saw that I had been trying to fit the lining zipper into the coat's front zipper. No wonder I couldn't make it work. How many times in my life have I done the same thing? Forced a solution. I have tried to zip myself to people and situations that didn't fit me, becoming frustrated and disheartened in the process. But I've learned that easy does it. I can take the time to see if I match what I think I want before I jump in and start zipping. My life is more serene because I'm not pushing to make myself fit somewhere I don't belong. Today's reminder, if my plans hit a snag today, I will step back for a moment and take a calm look at the situation before moving ahead. Quote, and the quote is, easy does it. Think about it. When you're in a hurry to do something and everything seems to go wrong, you'll be surprised how much this one little idea can do for you. End quote. And this comes from Youth and the Alcoholic Parent. So when you're tempted, to jump in and where you don't belong, I see there's a lot with young people who jump in and give advice and influence other young people, and they don't have the wisdom. They don't know, nor are they able to write the check, nor are they going to pay the price tag, for the consequences of their well-intentioned but poor advice. So that's another thing that should put the brakes on a lot of what you do is if you think you're so smart, if you think you know so much, if you think you have so much insight, really, 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 are you willing to pay the price of the outcome? If the addict ends up dead, the addict, if someone else ends up dead, if someone ends up stuck in mental illness for the rest of their life, if the consequences are dire, are you really, really willing to take responsibility for the impact you have on other people's lives? That's a question that should cause all of us to pause. If you're the grandparent, the, sibling, the friend, the whatever. Oh yeah, I want to be the hero. Everybody wants to be the hero. I want to say, oh, I saved someone, but really? Really? You need to think very carefully, long and hard about what you do and how you do it, and take the long view of things. So that's what I've got for April 24th. Blessings on your day.